From the National Weather Service in Raleigh, it's Nick Petro with a winter weather webinar briefing here for Central North Carolina. And certainly this has been a very quickly evolving situation. Last week the models hinted that there could be some wintry weather now, and then they went warm on us and said, nope, all rain. And then in the last 48 hours, last 24 to 48 hours, they've trended much colder now, and it's back to a wintry weather event. So anyway, we've been sending out email briefings, and I normally would like to do multiple briefings like this leading up to it, but certainly I wanted to at least catch one webinar here before it actually occurs. So if you've been following along our PowerPoint briefings, you might wonder, well, what's changed since the last email briefing you got? And we've expanded the winter weather advisory for more of Central North Carolina. Namely, Lee, Harnett, Johnston, and Wayne counties have been added into the advisory that featured everything else further to the north earlier today. And then we did a slight, subtle increase in snowfall amounts, particularly northeast of the triangle. So let's go ahead and get right to the main points. So snow, how much? Well, for some folks, it's just going to be a dusting. For some folks, maybe a half inch or an inch, just enough to kind of give you a little kind of wintry feel outside. And for others, it's going to be, 2, maybe 3 inches of snow that could result in some slick spots on roads. And I think the variation will be sort of from south to north. In the way I mentioned that, the least amount further south near the South Carolina border, if you get any snow at all the way to, the 2 to 3 inch amounts which occur or which are forecast to occur northeast of Raleigh. So anyway, if there was a place where, where travel could be hazardous, we're still thinking mainly along and north of Highway 64, and we've kind of stuck with that for the last day or so. But particularly worst would be, I think, north and east of Raleigh. Okay. And then finally, we always, like to highlight the concerns for black ice and, especially the day after snow when snow melt, the following night could refreeze. And we think that might be possible tomorrow night, Thursday night, specifically because temperatures are going to fall through the 30s. It's possible we could see readings bottom out right around 20 degrees tomorrow night. And again, that could be anywhere north of Highway 64 or places where, snow, an inch or more of snow is received. So that'll be the main thing. But, let me go ahead and turn to current conditions now, because I think this is can shed some light on some things. And one thing that, and I got radar, which are these, bright colors. There's the light, the off-white shades here, satellite imagery, visible satellite imagery. So basically, Greensboro, Raleigh, over to Greenville and south, it's clear in this patch here. But you can see over Charlotte, down to Florence, South Carolina, over toward Wilmington, this is a batch of clouds that are advancing up across the state. And then this green area is where it's raining, and the blue and purple is where it's snowing. So anyway, as we put this into a loop, you can kind of see how things are evolving, and I'm not sure if the bandwidth is going to allow everybody to see this looping very well, and I don't want to keep your time. So anyway, you could see that the clear skies, what has that done? Well, what that's done is it warmed things up, and I think while we were expecting temperatures to climb into the upper 40s today to near 50, 52, 3, 55, 56 degrees means that whatever falls late tonight is going to have to work a little bit harder to bring that temperature down to allow for snowfall to accumulate. So here we are right now. You're probably looking at the window and saying, well, I see lots of sunshine. Don't worry, the rain you could see is basically crossing the mountains right now. So we do expect the rain to continue advancing eastward. It should move into the triad here within the next, I would say, 2 to 3 hours, it'll be raining in Winston-Salem and Greensboro, down toward Lexington and down toward Wadesboro. And then, well, let me show you. Let me actually go to this here reflectivity simulation, because I think this kind of gives a better idea of the what, when, and where. And on this particular series of simulations, the green and yellows represent where it's raining, yellows where it's raining a little bit harder, and the blues represent where it's snowing. And you can see that 8 p.m., and let me get my highlighter out here, maybe this will help 8 p.m., it'll just be coming upon the triad areas in the western Piedmont. But certainly by 9, 10, 11 o'clock, that rain's going to overspread all of central North Carolina. Okay, so by 10 o'clock, it's raining everywhere. But one thing you'll notice here is look up around, again, along in north. Here's 85. Here's the 85 corridor. You'll notice here in the area from 85 to the Virginia border, before midnight, we'll start to see a little bit of a transition to rain and snow mix. Right, and then about midnight or 1 a.m., it's going to switch across more of central North Carolina, so that by 1 a.m., that rain snow line is basically, all the way to the Triangle and nearly down toward Troy in Montgomery County. If you draw a line from, say, Edgecombe County, Wilson, back toward Troy, from there north, it's all snow, and from there south, it's all rain. And then eventually that rain snow line just continues to progress to the south and east. And then by 3 a.m., it's pretty much snowing everywhere except for the southern tier. Obviously, Anston, Richmond, and Scotland counties might not see much, if any, snow at all. It'll stay there, rain the longest. Okay, so anyway, that's how we expect this to play out. But the one thing I want to draw your attention to is, you're probably wondering, well, how can it be, a snow situation when, we're looking at, temperatures, heck, in the upper 50s in some spots, I think I closed that. So sorry, I can't show that again. Well, the deal here is that there's a lot of cold air in the upper parts of the atmosphere that is going to be moving in tonight. Actually this evening, and we wouldn't even realize it's occurring because it's happening, well above the surface. But another thing is when that cold air above the surface results in snow falling through the atmosphere, what happens is this very initial leading edge of snow, what that does is, as it's falling closer to the ground, it's cooling the atmosphere, because when it melts, when those initial snowflakes melt and it hits the warm air, it causes the air to cool down. So the more it snows, eventually it cools it down enough to the point where the snow could make it to the ground. Well, the fact that we are headed into this process a little warmer than we thought we would could potentially delay the onset of accumulation. And every 10 or 15 minutes that that we can delay accumulation, the more it cuts into expected snowfall totals. So I know there are some models out there that are showing, 3, 4, 5, 6, or even more inches of snow. But we're thinking that because we're headed into this event so warm, that, that initial inch or two of snow that otherwise would have accumulated will not accumulate, because that first inch or two of snow is just going to be used up trying to cool the atmosphere down to the point where the snow can make it to the ground. So unfortunately, we're going to miss out on an inch or two of accumulation, particularly, across the northern half of the area, mainly because we're headed into this event so warm. But eventually, the precipitation rates will win out, and eventually there'll be enough snow falling through the column where it'll cool it everywhere, and everywhere by 1 p.m., when I say everywhere, I mean from the area you see blue, will have changed to snow, and then pretty much by 3 a.m., nearly all of central North Carolina will change to snow. So the other thing I want to point out in this simulation is that you'll probably notice the window of opportunity to accumulate snow is pretty brief, because by 5 a.m., these amounts are very light and the system is exiting very quickly. So this system will be getting out of here fast, okay? It's a quick hitting event. a very limited duration accumulation opportunity. So what can we pile up between 1 a.m., 3 a.m., as late as 5 a.m.? We've got, what, 4 hours there to accumulate snow? Even at its hardest, you can't really accumulate that much snow in 3 or 4 hours unless it's really coming down terribly hard. So the key thing to watch out tonight is how much of that snow that would otherwise accumulate is wasted. Well, I shouldn't say wasted if you want accumulation, but is used up by to cool the atmosphere down to the point where the snow can make it to the ground. So, and that's the one caveat here as we head into this event so warm. Okay, and then once it does change to snow, then you only got 2, 3, maybe 4 hours at most to accumulate snow. All right, so that's why this particular one's been pretty tricky. So anyway, that's the setup. So how much snow do you think we can get in 3, 4 hours for the places that do change over? Well, this is kind of our range of possibilities. Okay, and we rolled this product out about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And it's been a good product for us because this shows us, there's literally dozens and dozens of models that go into what we call our range of possible snow accumulation. And there are models that show that it's just going to be too warm and that nearly all of the snow is going to just be gobbled up by the warm air, and that by the time it cools it down enough, there's just not going to be any left to accumulate. So that's why the low end amount says 0, because there's a lot of models out there that say nothing will accumulate because it's just all that snow goes toward melting and goes toward cooling down the atmosphere. On the other hand, there is the high end amount, which says, yeah, well, it cools it down fairly quickly, but at the same time, we're what we call transporting cold air in from the north. So the 1 in 10 chance on the lower right would say, well, you know what? It's going to cool it down so fast, and then the rates are going to fall so hard that, and meanwhile we have colder air coming in from the north, that more of that snow, instead of going toward cooling the atmosphere, is actually adding up. So that's where some of the models, only a handful of them, 1 out of 10 models, shows that there could be 4, 5, 6 or more inches of snow. Again, particularly north of Highway 64. What we'd like to do is say, okay, of this whole range of scenarios, what's the most likely accumulation? And that's what we put in the middle. What we think, we think that there'll be enough snow left after it's cooled the atmosphere to the point where it can accumulate that we might get a dusting, south of Highway 64 to maybe a 3/4 of an inch of snow. Because meanwhile, at the same time, let me use my highlighter again here. At the same time, cold air is coming in from the north, right? So that's helping make it a little easier for areas near the Virginia border to see accumulation. So that said, what the Highway 64 corridor kind of runs sort of like that, and I did a real rough job of that. But you get the idea that roughly north of that line is the area that we think it will snow long enough once it's cooled down adequately to accumulate precipitation. Now, you might be wondering, well, why do we have the bullseye, if you will, northeast of Raleigh? Well, by the time the atmosphere is cooled down enough across the triad, the back edge of the precipitation band will be moving through, and there's just very, very limited opportunity to accumulate any. So you might get an inch or two of snow, but we think that the duration of accumulated snow will last the longest north and east of Raleigh, and that's why we have a 2 to 3 inch area northeast of Raleigh, because we think there will be cold air generated in the triad from the snow falling and cooling the atmosphere. And that air will move to the east, and then there'll be additional cold air moving in from the north, and that allows the coldest air with the best opportunity for accumulation northeast of Raleigh. So anyway, that's the range of possibilities, with the middle being the most likely scenario. Okay. Keep in mind, some models, show that nothing may happen, and there's a model or two out there that show, 6, 7, 8 inches of snow. Now, I will caution you, there are people out there on social media who have access to these models. Everybody has access to them, and they're grabbing these snowfall graphics and they're putting them out there on social media saying, hey, look, we're going to get dumped on, and that stuff goes viral. So be careful where you get your weather information from. While there is a 1 in 10 chance of that actually happening, the odds favor the odds are more likely for the middle graphic to occur, or actually the odds are better for nothing to occur versus 7 or 8 inches to occur north of 64. Okay, be careful of those social media folks that just grab stuff off the internet and put it out there. Okay, so anyway. All right, so let me get my pointer back here. And I think I've pretty much conveyed fairly well, I think, what we're going to expect tonight. So I'm just going to jump to our summary bullets here. Our confidence is medium. It rarely in a winter weather event do we have high confidence. Rain's going to move in from the west. Precip will start out as all rain, and then after 11, I say cold air rushes into the area, but the cold air not only rushes into the area, that's a loft, but it has to be generated by snow melting closer to the ground. Nevertheless, after 11, the rain will change to snow, and that'll happen from northwest, and it'll progress southeast through the overnight hours, with most of the snow falling along and north of Highway 64. Okay, precipitation will end after daybreak Thursday. Okay, right now we expect that most locations along and north of Highway 64 will see snow accumulations ranging from a dusting to a little over an inch. But it's possible that the further you go north of 64, you start seeing those snow amounts that could range from 1 to 3 inches. And we expect that the higher end of that range will occur northeast of Raleigh, okay, including the I-95 corridor. And again, I think I already mentioned this. We're expecting it to end by daybreak across the Triad and Western Piedmont, and by 9 a.m. Thursday for the I-95 corridor. All right, so of course, it should be obvious that the places that see heavier snow will see, more hazardous road conditions overnight, especially on bridges and elevated roadways. I would be prepared if you live longer north of Highway 64. I would be prepared for probably snow to be on the roads tomorrow morning for the Thursday morning commute. Okay, it may be only a light coating, or it could be an inch or two, or as much as 3. But I'd be prepared for there to be some snow on the road, okay? The good news is, time to turn to the good news. It's going to be wall-to-wall sunshine during the daytime tomorrow, and that'll help melt the snow very quickly. If you live south of 64, certainly by, 2, 3 in the afternoon, there won't be any snow on the ground. You're going to say, well, what snow event? It'll all have melted, and a lot of it will melt north of 64. But the places that see the most snow, some of that slush that occurs with melting snow will probably refreeze into black ice Thursday night when temperatures fall through the 20s down to a low around 20. Okay, so and again, that'll be north of Highway 64. All right, so those are the main key points here. I want to point out that this will be our one and only webinar. This is going to be our last full PowerPoint briefing, and because the event is upon us, we tend to transition to shorter, sometimes one-page type briefings as things evolve. And if something occurs where we think it's going to be more towards the 0, or if we think it's going to be more higher than what we have in the middle, of course we'll update you via single slide posts in the email list and such. So, but anyway, this is the way we think it's going to play out here. The range of possibilities with the most likely opportunity or scenario being in the middle. And I know we've gone on a little bit on the long side here, but there's one last thing I want to show you that hopefully will give folks a little bit higher confidence in the evolution of this event. And what I've taken you here to is weather.gov/Raleigh. Okay, it's weather.gov. Sometimes people throw in RAH, but you can type in Raleigh and it'll take you to this page. If you scroll down to where it says winter weather, this blue square here, this takes you to those maps that I showed you, and you can click on where it says probabilistic snowfall forecast. If you click on that link, that shows you the 3 maps that I had in my PowerPoint slide. But there's one other thing I want to show you. It's the chance that snow amounts will be greater. Okay, so what is the chance that we're going to get more than 1/10 of an inch of snow, a dusting, let's say? It's darn near, 100%. Well, not quite 100%, but it's greater than 80% for a big portion of northern and northeast portions of central North Carolina. Heck, even down near, Rayford, Wadesboro, Laurinburg, it's 44, 48% chance you're going to see a 1/10 of an inch or more. So, if 1 inch is your trigger point, or a threshold point, this is the probability or the chance of seeing 1 inch of snow or more. So you can see along Highway 85, north of I-40, the odds are pretty high, 50, 60, 70% or higher, basically along and north of 64, that you're going to see at least an inch of snow. Okay, if you're down near Laurinburg or Wadesboro, you only have a 7% chance of seeing an inch or more of snow. Okay, and then once you get to these higher amounts, greater than 2 inches, you can see how south of 64, the chances really fall off, but we still have a pretty decent chance once you get north of Raleigh, northeast of Raleigh, of seeing 2 or more inches of snow, and then you can just go right up the scale. So, if you're looking for greater than 6 inches and you click on the greater than 6 inches, well, it's pretty disappointing probabilities here. So the likelihood of seeing a half a foot of snow is pretty slim for pretty much all of central North Carolina. All right, so a neat little tool that I think you might find, and then you can drill down even further to actual cities. Okay, so definitely feel free to take advantage of this tool here that we have on our webpage. So with that, I wish everybody all the best through this event. And like I said, just keep it on our webpage, weather.gov/Raleigh, your email for those on our email list. And of course, this briefing will be posted on YouTube, and these slides I just showed will be emailed out here shortly.